Hello and welcome to the Harvard Center for International Development Fridays speaker series. I'm Sabri Benzaid, a student at the Kennedy School doing the Masters in Public Administration and International Development. At CID, our mission is to build a thriving world for all by connecting talent, research, and practice across Harvard and around the world to tackle today's most urgent challenges. We're excited for today's conversation, Women's Leadership at the Peace Table, Lessons from Burundi and Beyond. And before we begin, just a quick housekeeping notes. Please enjoy lunch and help us reduce waste. So all food containers, utensils, and napkins are compostable. We'll hold questions and answers at the end. So we'll come around with a mic, but keep your questions for that time, please. Today's session is recorded and will be posted on the CID YouTube channel. So the camera is only on the speaker. There's also the CID photographer for the social media. So if you do not want to be highlighted in the pictures, please let someone from the team know. Don't forget to scan the QR code to check in. And also please follow the LinkedIn and Instagram pages of Harvard CID. So thank you everyone for joining today. And without further ado, I'll briefly introduce our speaker for today that we're very grateful to have. So Madame Binetta Diop is a peace builder, a women's rights advocate, and one of Africa's foremost leaders in advancing women's participation in peace and security. She is the founder and president of Femmes Africa Solidarité, a pioneering organization that has worked for over 3 decades to ensure women's voices are heard at every stages of the peace process. Madame Diop currently serves as the African Union Special Envoy on Women, Peace and Security, where she leads effort to integrate gender equality into the African Union's peace and development agenda. And throughout her distinguished career, Madame Diop has played an instrumental role in shaping international policy, including the adoption of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which recognizes the vital role of women in preventing conflict and sustaining peace. She has been directly involved in peace negotiation in Burundi, Liberia, and Sudan, as we will hear today, where her leadership helped ensure the women were not only observers, but decision makers at the peace table. Her work at the Burundi Arusha peace talks demonstrated how women's inclusion can make agreements more comprehensive, people-centered, and sustainable. Named by the Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, Madame Diop continues to advocate for peace processes rooted in empathy, inclusion, and shared humanity. She holds numerous honors, and her contribution to peace, democracy, and gender equality are recognized. So thank you for being here with us, and I let you for today's conversation.
Thank you so much. But let me just say that I'm the former special envoy on after 10 years of the African Union as a special envoy on women, peace, and security. And let me just welcome you all and thank CID and the CAR Center and all of you are here. Let me just start by on the agenda. Today, I wanted us to look at Africa, the context of Africa, and highlight the leadership of two iconic personalities that have played a big role in bringing peace in their own countries, but beyond, even in Burundi. So, and third, I will look at the transformative leadership needed for peace building and the economic transformation in Africa. So, and we will have a conversation, I think, on Africa and what needs to be done with all of you. Getting to know Africa. I think it's important that many of us see that it's by region, 5 regions, but also we say the diaspora is the 6th region of Africa. So you have the north, you have the west in blue, you have also the central, and the green, that is the east, and you have the southern Africa. So I'm sure that You are familiar that right now we are 1.5 billion and 2.5 in 2050, the projection, huge population. The density that you have seen, you see it here, and a growing huge human capital. I think those who look at into investment, you will see is a big market, upcoming market. Youngest population in the world is growing everywhere in many of our countries. You see the ratio of men and women, it's almost the same, 50-50. And the young people are also part of this, and 50-50. Let's see our culture. You have been in Africa and a reach of culture. So it's not just about the people, but it's also what the people have from their family, from their ancestor, and how they sharing those culture with the world. When you go to tourism, you will enjoy Africa, but here also natural resources. 40% of the global gold, diamond, cobalt, and platinum, 40% of the world. When it comes to energy and sustainable energy, it's in Africa. You take our sun, you take our ocean, our land, when we call the blue and the green economy. So you found them in Africa. But we have here a paradox. Beside the reach of the soil of Africa, we still have the poverty of the people of Africa. But let me end, it has been said many times, and one of the Kwame Nkrumah was the one to say, Africa is rich, but the population is still poor at that time. So we experience conflict, and we still have conflict. The apartheid, you know about it, in South Africa. We had the genocide in Rwanda. Liberia civil war was the first one in Africa, the civil war in Liberia, the first civil war in the continent. Massive atrocities and ongoing conflict by region. You see the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, Sudan, the DRC, Mozambique. So each region you touch, you find that we still have conflict. Rich of resource, but still facing violence, which impact on the people. So everybody says Africa is the future, because if you have all what is needed for sustainable development, Africa should play a key role in the future of humanity. So let me show you two leaders that have contributed and why leadership is important. And when we talk about leadership, it's not just the leadership of men, but it's also the leadership of women, because both can accomplish what is needed to bring peace, security, and development. The first one is Nelson Mandela, that you all know. Don't need to tell you who is Nelson Mandela. The second one is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. President Mandela from South Africa spent 27 years in prison, Robben Island. Have you visited Robben Island? Very, very tough, but 27 years. But when he came out, he said, I forgive those who have made the atrocity, but I will not forget. And revenge, no. Ubuntu philosophy, that's what Nelson Mandela is about. You are because I am, or I am because we are. So he was elected the first president of South Africa, but he left the power after one term. Can you imagine? Now people are changing to make sure that they stay. He won the Nobel Peace Prize, you remember, and for us, and he did it with de Klerk, who was also the one leading the system. Both of them mediated to bring peace in South Africa. But here, when I look at South Africa, is one of the countries that have women in the ANC who fought also against apartheid. And since 1994, women hold 3 of 7 leadership positions. It did continue in South Africa because Mandela believed on the people, the young people, but also on the women. So that's the statistic that you see on the screen. The case of Burundi now, because Mandela, after leaving power, be the mediator of Burundi after Julius Nyerere, Malimu. And Malimu was also somebody that's a hero in Africa from Tanzania. He did great work for the region. So Nyerere was the first one to take over the case of Burundi. But at the end of the day, he was maybe not well, we put it like that. So Mandela took from him as a mediator of the Burundi. You will see that Burundi was in crisis, almost genocide like Rwanda, almost civil war. And when Mandela came, you know, the women organized themselves and were ready to be in the field. They visited, they went to the camps, they did a lot of discussion to formulate their agenda. They were not invited in the peace talks. It was only men who was holding the guns and sharing the power that were invited to be at the table. That's most of our mediation happening in that way. Because we said we want to silence the gun. But silencing the guns, women have an agenda. And that's what the women of Burundi did by getting together despite a different ethnic group and formulate an agenda. So Mandela's role was to see them first before seeing anybody. Say, I wanted to meet with the women. If the men are at the table, I want the women to be leading my negotiation. And when women lead, you will see that what's the final peace accord agreement integrated 23 recommendations coming from the women. Either it is on human rights, either it is how we share power. So you see one of the meetings that I was with Mandela, and this is the report of the process that we did with him. I'm here, I was young. You could see with my organization and with another organization which is led by Vasu Gaunde. So we did the press conference together. And one anecdote that I like to say, because, you know, sense of humor. I was just walking to him and was sitting, and he told the journalists, the media in front, he said, here coming the lady from Senegal, Madame Diop, you will be the next president of Senegal. I said, no, President, no, don't say that. But everybody laughed. That's the way that he liked to interact with people. So let me just leave to so my role was to facilitate the women participation and for him to include them in the negotiation. And Mandela, as I said, is always looking how to bring other actors, but not just those who hold the gun. His humility, as I said, he always turned criticism into teaching moment. And let me give an example on this. Here again, where we are discussing with the women's group. One of the Burundi guy, one of the group, that are armed group, some of them were outside and shouting to say Mandela is going to do mistake like he did in South Africa. We don't want the same thing in Burundi. You know how they contest. And Mandela said, let me work on him. He called the head of the apartheid system of the army and he said, come and meet me in closed door. He sat with him and talked to him. And what he said, you and me, we had guns, right? You have enough gun to kill one another. But I decided to call you as the head of the apartheid system so we sit down and negotiate. Because I wanted the killing to stop. So the guy said, yes. He said, the first time I'm meeting with you today. Since then, election, I haven't met with you. But I want you to tell the Burundi to stop the fight and to negotiate and to mediate. And that's the lesson that we got from Mandela. He was a freedom fighter, but he cared about his people. So this humility and moral courage is something that for all of us who have worked with him, we know that reconciliation, the model that he put, is what he tried to do in Burundi. So you see, with him and the women of Burundi, meeting with them and putting them at the front of the negotiation. Because when the men are negotiating the power sharing, the women will come with their agenda, not on the power sharing only. They have their right to be part of it. But what they do more is to look into the education system, is to look at in the health system, how I am Hutu or I'm Tutsi or I'm Twa, whatever ethnic group, Muslim, Christian, but we care about our people. And that's the agenda that the women were able to bring at the table to break the cycle of power sharing that we see when those armed groups are imposing. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, you have seen, we call her Mama Africa, but she's the Africa Island lady. You have seen her in the library, you say, so because she graduated from Harvard Kennedy School. Great women. First lady elected female head of state in Africa, the first female in Africa in free and fair elections. She was in prison like Mandela and went in exile. That's where she came here to Harvard. But also she, in 1997, she went into the election on Liberia, lost election. I was there when she lost the election. I will come back to it. So, but she was resilient. And why? Let me give you also an anecdote. When she lost elections, I said, Madam, I hope you are not coming back because Liberia is in ruin. You want to be president of a country that everything is destruction. She said, I will come back because I love my people. I love Liberia and I love the people of Liberia. I will fight because I want to transform my country. That's what she told me. So she came back and she won election. And you see, this is a book. This child will be great. You might read it. It's a quiet journey, how leadership is, the resistance that she did. And of course, like Mandela, you know, your leadership sometimes is tested. It happened to him, to her, to him. And but at the end of the day is what they do for their population. So here, how did I work with Ellen, the case of Liberia, is that, you know, Liberia, it's a very, the history of Liberia is really very related to America Liberian. You remember that there was a boat sent from America with Black American to Liberia. Even if you see Liberia, the flag of Liberia is the same flag as America. That's the America entry into Africa. It's very linked. So a boat of family, Black family, to send them back, and they were the settlers. They came to be settled down in Liberia as well. So, but over the year, there was an elite that was, over the population that were living there. So tension, fight, coup d'etat, there was a coup. And after we had the civil war and killings and humanitarian impact. So really terrible situation in Liberia. So that's, I was there in the elections, but just to say the role of women again, how they bring peace in Liberia. You see Ellen and Lima Boy, you can go and see the film on Madame Bowie. She got the Nobel Peace Prize, and Ellen as well. You see two of them. So the role of women in bringing peace in Liberia, this is one of the women that also be awarded the Human Rights Prize by the General Assembly of the UN. They are the one who liberate Liberia. If Liberia are in peace now, it's thanks to this women's group that organize themselves, and they push to be part of the peace talk. They call the Manu River Women Peace Network. Manu River is Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea at that time, and Cote d'Ivoire. So they work closely with the peace mediator. When they came in Akosombo, is in Ghana. And they bring also, like the Burundi, they brought together their agenda for peace. They have been recognized, as I said, for their efforts on Peace Prize, the Nobel. But one of the things that Ellen did, tested her leadership, was Ebola. You know, it was a big disease, like we had, experience like recently our crisis. But she was fighter. It never get out of Liberia. She said, I don't want to that other countries being contaminated. She fought very much to make sure that it doesn't go through the region. And that was one of a big fight on health issue in Liberia. But she won the second term and make Liberia sustainable. So for me, what I did, you could see me, I'm observing the election. The first election she lost, was observing election 1997 in Liberia. And she didn't make any noise when she lost. I was with a team of 20 women to observe, and there was a team with the President Jimmy Carter. But what we did was that calm Ellen when she lost. She said, if the women haven't seen anything, it means that I cannot even complain, because they are here and they are coming because I know that they will be frank, and if the election are not right, they will say it. So we really help her to get out of that crisis, but she say, I will come back and I will fix it. And that's how she came back and did, as I said, Ellen, love of her country. But also, when you read her book, you will find that She confronts armed groups. She always go to the armed group to talk, even that they have guns in front of her. Without guns, she talked to them. That's the women that you see here. Integrity, her values. She never want to compromise. Read her book, you will find what is leadership about. If you talk about Mandela, we need to talk about people like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as well. So what I learned from these two leaders that I have approached and worked with them, the shared leadership values of the both sacrifice their life for justice, peace, and freedom. Neither change their constitution. So the problem is changing the constitution to remain in power. They decided not to do that. Mandela did only one term. Ellen did the 2-term because that's what she said, I'm leaving, I don't change anything. So both prove that, leadership is service. I do it for the people, but it's not because of my status or control. If you see her now, she's going from one place to another to help, to continue to help the population. What I learned myself, the lesson, effective leadership is essential to achieving sustained peace. What is missing for Africa, as I show you, to have everything that we have as resources, as human resources, what is missing really is this kind of leadership. So that's why we are making sure that you who are here, who are leaders on this space, you need to come back and help Africa to transform. And Africa is going to transform. It's on the way. It's on the path. So we need to invest on our people. If, as we said, it will be the place for humanity. Also, they really use their power, both of them, to bring stability, not in their own country, but in other countries of Africa. So one of the things that the research have said, participation of women and civil society, if they are not at the peace table, in the years to come, the agreement will fail. But the sustain, like Liberia or Burundi or other countries, even it is just peace that, it's not war anymore and they need to build a peace. But at the end of the day, it's because the population have been in that agreement and they take leadership and ownership. Because what is important, that is not just a piece of paper, but it is something that is owned by the population and something that they will implement together and something that they will monitor the implementation. So leadership is still a challenge. When you look at that, right now in the world, 2025, 29 countries have 32 women as head of state only. You see the current rate and the path, this current path. Gender, it will take 130 years before we get gender equality. This is the World Economic Forum and UN Women who say that. Before we get gender equality, not even the issue of leadership on top. 19 countries have a women's head of states, and 22 have a women head of government. In Africa, right now, we have only 2. Yes, call to action, that's my last. I'm sure that out of here, we will see how you engage on peace building, but sustainable development, and make sure that Africa is going to be part of whatever research you do or the education that we are putting on our young people. So we, Africa Women Leaders Network, we are in 40 countries now. It's led by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I'm one of the co-convener. And here you see former head of state from Mauritius, from Ethiopia, Ellen Johnson, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma from Central Africa, those leaders of Africa that have been in leading position, but who are helping the society, not just women, but they are helping the society, men and women. And we have an agenda which is called positive masculinity. Is men engaged in the society to support women? Because a society where men only are the one or women only is not the transformative society that we look for. So this is Ellen quote before I finish my, she say, if your dreams don't scare you, they are not big enough. So our dream should scare us today. We need Africa to be the future of the world. I thank you.
Thank you, Binetta, for this nice talk that keeps us hope for Africa and for peaceful building. We're going to transition to the Q&A. So please, if you have any questions that you have about peace building processes across Africa or in general, please kindly raise your hand. We'll take 2 to 3 questions at the time and let Binetta answer those. And if not, I can start with one question. Oh, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable. My name's Ioannis, and I'm graduated from the Kennedy School in May. There have been a lot of talk about women leadership, and there have been a lot of conventions, the 1995 Beijing Conference, the AU, the African Union, but not much is happening. We see the recent case in Tanzania as well. As someone who has been very much instrumental in leading women to create this change and make impact in the leadership space on the continent, what do you think is still the major barrier? Is it just lack of political will? Is it just lack of women not feeling comfortable enough to take on these roles? I mean, what are your thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes, and that's a great question. And in your question, you have 3 issues. The first one that you said is that we have a lot of agreement policies, but we lack implementation. That's one. And why we lack that implementation is the political will, of course. Within the AU, there are things that have been happening. For example, at the AU Commission, we have the parity principle. It's 50-50. When the recruitment is happening, we make sure that we have enough women than men. When you see the top of the AU is 4 men and 4 women. So then the women are fought in Africa to have that parity to be applied. People don't know it. And even the UN is copying the AU to have in the leadership position 50-50. So that is a number one. You quote also Tanzania. I think there's, first of all, the issue of women at very levels, especially on top. We don't have many right now. I said it is Namibia, who is doing excellent, in Namibia. And we have Tanzania, who just went into election and who have challenges right now that we need to see. One of the things I know that situation is very difficult in Tanzania, and we need to accept that because they are deaf, and elections are very violent in Africa. They are violent. I remember in my country, in Senegal, which is so peaceful, but when we were going elections, we saw the brutality that might happen in the population because it's, again, sharing power. And what we did is the women create what they call the situation room to mediate, to observe. And it's always good that women engage in the prevention to make sure that they are in advance, not waiting. When you see the signal, you have to intervene. And I think that what maybe we have missed somewhere, somehow, to mobilize to make sure that the Tanzanian doesn't go in the electoral process in a violent manner. So now I would say I'm not finding an excuse. I say, but when you look at what sometimes our leaders, how many are, doing so many things, but when women at the position are doing one thing, it becomes bigger than what men is doing. So what you see, Tanzania is under turmoil and we need to fix it. It's about leadership. We need to accompany. And it's also to make sure that justice happens. For me, the important is when violence happens, we tend to forget, and the victims, we leave them behind. It's how do we make sure that justice happens? How do we monitor those? How do we bring those who perpetrate, we bring them wherever, to court and to wherever they should be. Violence against women is something we need to combat, and for the young people. But do you know, as I said from the beginning, the young people are in the street. They don't have jobs. So when something like this, you can enroll them very rapidly. And that's what we see in the Sahel with the terrorist act that are out. So that's why we need to give development to our nation, economic transformation, and give job to our people. And we have the resources to do it. The thing is the people. If we have the resources, we make sure that the women and the men are educated. Our young boys have to be educated. At the end, the bottom is the education, and to give them the knowledge, the tools for them to contribute to the transformation of the continent. So Tanzania is, for us, it's difficult, and we need to fix it. And fixing it is to show, like everywhere, remorse, that we are sorry that it's happening like this, but we should have prevented it. And that's where AU sometimes is not doing the right thing, is prevention before curing, and to make sure that also after that, that justice is done. But it's a test on women leadership. The men are doing it all the time, but the women should not do the same thing, the wrong thing. So again, that's why I came to two, to compare that men can be good and should be good, and women have to be a part of it. Thank you.
This is a question from our virtual audience. One person asked, sorry.
Yes.
It's going to take a moment, sorry. It's moving fast. They asked if you could speak about the important role of youth and young scholars as advocates and thoughtful leaders to drive policy, peace, and stability globally.
I'd like to just ask your advice, or just first a comment about different international players in the course of Africa's history and its future. As somebody, as I look back, who very naively worked in Africa with no idea of the culture, the complex social, and then just parachuted in, I feel like sometimes it happens a lot with best intention, but very little knowledge or understanding. If you were kind of guiding people working in either diplomacy, in development, how would you advise us to best approach different issues in Africa? Is there something that everybody needs to do better? But I guess, back again, what is your advice to external people working in Africa?
Okay. Great. Two important questions. I think the youth, for us, youth and peace the AU have a network of young people, men and women, that have been trained as peacemakers as well. But what we do, for example, when I talk about our call to action, what we do on our side is, on the African Women Leaders Network, is to do sometime intergenerational dialogue with the young people in Africa, where we go somewhere and we stay a few days, where us, with our experience, we can exchange with them what we have done, and they know better than us what is happening now, right now in the world, because they are connected. But I can give them my little knowledge of my past. 75 years of existence, I have a little bit of I can share, right? So, but they know a lot themselves in this environment. They can teach us. They are on AI. They are on new technology. They are nuclear. So we close door and talk to them about their normal life, because that is also something we need to take on the leadership. Your normal life, being a wife, being a woman at home, having children, and so on. So it's good that we transmit our experience and they transmit the knowledge. So important that the vision that we have for Africa, that we transmit it to the young population, so they are able them to take it and take the baton, because it's the young people who can take it. This agenda, our agenda, feminist agenda, they can take it and move it forward. It's not us. We have done our bit. It's the rest. It's very important for the young people. But they are the spoiler, because they are the one that don't have job, that they recruit the young people and they take somewhere else. So on your questions on the being the knowledge, the culture of Africa, and not knowing where to start. Maybe my simple experience is, because I'm from Senegal, but when I work in Burundi, for me, is first to look at what are the issues of the Burundi, what do they want? I'm not coming to impose them anything, because they have their own culture. I wanted to understand what is it. I have to put myself into, and that solidarity that needs to be put in place with them, and understanding also their plight. But it's not easy, as you rightly said, that when you go to Africa, coming from another world, it might be difficult to navigate. But the first thing to do is to try to integrate, to be within and understand, and let them give you the solution. Because most of the time they have solutions. It's just that we don't ask them. We come with our model and we impose the model. But what we need here is to ask them. And believe me, the women at the grassroots, the women there, you ask them, they know. Sometimes you go yourself more enriched than, by coming. So I think it's the interaction with the grassroots, the interaction on the terrain, that will help you to have the right model and to test it with them. And let it with them. They will be the one implementing it at the end of the day, because you will live for sustainability. So let they take it and own it, and for them also to embrace your culture. And I think it's that Ubuntu that Mandela said, I exist because you exist. And we wanted to exist together. So that's the philosophy that we need to develop. It's not I'm white, I'm black, I'm Hutu, I'm this. No, we are together. And that togetherness is what we need to cultivate. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and also for sharing your experiences and reflections of the leadership from Nelson Mandela and also Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. I'd be really interested to hear maybe a summary of your learnings from your African Union Commission Special Envoy role, really what you were able to take from the experiences working with both state leaders to the African Union Commission role across the continent. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Madam Diop, for this conversation. I was wondering, it's the 25th year anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security agenda, and I know that you were crucial in the resolution 1325. And so I'm wondering, in these past 25 years, if you have any reflections on some of the gaps in the agenda and like where we can move going forward to make it more effective.
They have so much interlink your two questions. Yes, let me just say first, when I joined the AU as special envoy, and now we have a great woman called Ambassador Mula Mula, who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Tanzania, who now occupied the special envoy. So it was the first one envoy in the world. It didn't exist before. 10 years back, there was no special envoy on women, peace, and security. Special envoy or something, but not on women, peace, and security. AU was the first one to do this. And I had the privilege to occupy that position. When I came, it was, for example, being part, as you said, of the resolution 1325, from New York, from the Manu River, from the Great Lakes, it was important for me to bring the voice of the voiceless. Is really how AU could take into consideration 1325 as a priority. So just to give you maybe one of the indicator, Canada nominate also special envoy follow, because they knew that it is important. It became important. Norway also nominates. So that's the first thing to do. The second thing I said, only 17 countries have national action plan, because it's important to put it in your development plan. Peace and security is a development, it's an economy, it's nothing else. If you don't have peace, you don't have development, you don't have anything. So what I did was to make sure that Africa have the tool, have the agenda. So now we are 40 countries, maybe more, 40 countries that have national action plan. But it's not sufficient to have action plan, because somebody have said it might be just a paper. But first of all, you have to make sure that when you are developing it, the women are sitting at the table to develop it. It's not only government sitting and writing the national action plan. You need to bring the parliamentarian, you need to bring civil servant, you need to bring the military. All the component of the women, peace and security should be at the table to own that program. But what we did also at the AU is to put what we call the continental result framework. Because if you have a plan, even if it is inclusive, and you don't implement it, somebody have to monitor it. So our result framework is about monitoring what the member state who engage to say, I have a plan, but then what? And one of the gaps that we found in right now is also that collecting the data, it's very difficult. That's why also we're training government and other actors and female leaders to make sure that also they can monitor the implementation. Look the indicators that how many women are participating in the military service, how many women and men have been trained, what are the code of conduct that you have when you deploy peacekeeping. So all this you have to monitor them, that country are implementing it. Do they have mediation? Do they have a conflict at grassroots, et cetera, et cetera? So I think the AU have come with the ecosystem. Right now there is the office is established, there is a special envoy, but we need to strengthen those mechanisms at local level, at national level, so everybody can monitor the implementation of 1325. So I think it's linked to what you are asking. One of the strong that we found as a deficit, of course, we talk deficit of leadership to lead, but we are pushing to have women leading mediation. Recently, there was on the DRC, there was 5 men, but the women complained, and they remove 2 men and they put 2 women. So it's 3 men and 2 women. So it's just to monitor the process and to fight for, to say that it should be a societal issue. Everybody have to be part of, and the young people. Why, at the table of negotiation, youth are not there. We need to bring them on board. They need to be part of the process. When you raise the question, what is missing is to be inclusive, that inclusivity. The other issue that we found as well is the fact that it is not in the budget plan of action. It should be in the budget of the government. Donors are the one. You see what is happening now is USAID and others. There is no money for development agenda, right? So if you don't put it within the agenda of the country itself, so it's part of the budget of the country as a plan, so at the end, you will leave it just and not implement it. So we found in gaps, and when you look at the report of the African Union or of the chairperson or the report of the Secretary General, you found some of the new threats that we are facing. Emerging threats like climate change is a threat. When you go to the Lake Chad and other places, women are getting firewood very far. They're getting water very far, and they are exposed to anything by doing that. They spend their time for that. So climate change is impacting on the population, the rural population, on their land, and so many things, but also new threat like terrorism. Terrorism is, taking our young boys and young girls. And we need to make sure that also we fight in the Sahel, those who are in terrorist act, and bring peace in those regions. But it's requiring a lot of money. When you look at the peace report, there's World Peace Report, you go through it, you will find the resources that have been put on arms right now. Double. It's double since the Second World War. Money, huge money, arms, and not on the human capital. That's happening now, if you read the report. So I think that is where we should advocate to all of us, where we need to bring our development agenda and not just on war. But right now, everything is on war. That's the reality right now. All the money that the world has, book resources, are going where? In armament. And one of the big challenge.
Thank you for all your questions. We're going to now transition to the Perkins conference room for a career chat. If you have other questions and want to learn how to achieve such great milestones as Bineta did in her career, like if you want to pass UN resolutions, if you want to be ranked 100 in the world most influential people, that's your chance to come along and learn how to achieve that. But please join me in thanking again Bineta for her time today.
Let me thank my team. Sumeda, where are you? Crystal, where are you? Beta, yeah, all the team that have been with me. And we're doing wonderful work on women, peace, and security. And I thank you for being here. Great, thank you. Thank you.